Good afternoon and good evening and welcome everyone. We will start our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. We want to allow others to join us. So again, 2 minutes after the top of the hour, we will get started with our session. Again, welcome and thank you for joining us. For those of you that just joined us, welcome. We're glad to have you join us. We will start our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. We want to allow others to join us. So again, 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Thank you for joining us and welcome. Again, welcome everyone. Those of you that have just joined, welcome. We're glad to have you join our session. We will begin our session in about 2 minutes. We want to allow all of those that have registered to join us. So again, you have about another 2 minutes and we're going to start our session. Again, we're glad to have you. We'll start in 2 minutes. For those of you that have just joined us, welcome. We're allowing others another 40 seconds or so to join us. We're glad to have all of you join us. We'll get started shortly. If you like, you can put in the chat where you're dialing in from. Again, I'll read out some of those areas. Again, if you would like, you can put in the chat where you're dialing in from. Thank you, Christopher. So we got some New York here, some Texas, California, oh, Canada, that's all right. Texas, Australia, cool. All right. Thank you for sharing. Melbourne, all right. Great, great. We're just allowing others to join us now. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for sharing. Those of you that are in different parts of the world, glad to have you. Mexico and Minnesota, great, awesome. Minneapolis. Thanks for sharing. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome again, everyone. My name is Odell Gordon. I am a technical trainer here at Sumo Logic. I've been in IT for over 30 years now. I've played several roles in IT, database administrator, database designer, DevOps. So just a lot of roles around data. I'm dialing in from the Midwest, from Illinois. It's mid 70s. It's about to be sunset. It was a kind of nice day. So hopefully you're somewhere comfortable as well. Thanks, Travis from Mississippi. All right, that's good. I have been fortunate enough to be joined by one of our training colleagues here. Tram, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tram. I'm the training coordinator at Sumo Logic, and I work with Odell to schedule these sessions. So you probably see my name on the emails, but welcome. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you, Tram. Absolutely. And Tram's awesome for us. So Tram's going to be handling the chat as well as the Q&A. So if you have questions or problems, you just throw them in the chat. And again, we'll handle that for you. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, welcome all to our Sumo Generalist Fundamental Certification session. Okay. In this session, we will give you an overview of the Sumo Logic, that 500-foot overview, okay? I'll then go into demonstrating and monitoring a troubleshooting event, okay? Then you and I will log into our training environment and we will view some data that's collected. We'll search and parse and analyze through that data. Through our analysis, we'll look at some trends, we'll monitor some critical events, we'll then create and modify dashboards, and then create an alert. After that 2-hour lecture and labs, then you have an hour to go ahead and take the examination, which you will pass because I'm going to help you out there, okay? As I mentioned, you'll pass the examination, and we're excited to have you join us. We're glad you're taking the exam as well while it's fresh in your mind. We're going to go ahead and put in the chat once we get to the actual examination portion. We'll put in a form for you to fill out after you pass the exam, and we'll send back an Uber Eats $15 voucher. So we're excited to have you. We want you to pass the test, and we're giving you incentive now. Okay, hopefully. All right, so I am going to save us some bandwidth and allow you to focus on the lecture and the slides. So I'm gonna turn off my video. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. So how does Sumo Logic help us? Okay, let's take a look at that 500-foot overview. Okay, now, as I mentioned in my history, in my career, I worked in DevOps. I would go to the actual data center, go to the Unix console, log in, find where the logs were. Once I found the logs, then I would issue some grep statements, which would allow me to search through the logs. That sounds like a real tedious and manual process, which it was. Had I been fortunate enough to have Sumo Logic's continuous intelligence platform, I could have, you could have, we could have, and we can create dashboards. What you're seeing at the top of this slide is 4 examples of dashboards that you can create in our tool. So from an operational perspective, you and I could create a dashboard and we can find out the health of our systems. We can find out, are there any mean times to identify or resolve? We can look at all of the health of our systems, and we can glean that information from an operational dashboard, okay? We could build a security intelligence dashboard if we wanted to glean information about where users are logging in from, if users are logging in from multiple locations simultaneously, if someone is using the root access. Again, we can glean that information from this type of dashboard. From a business perspective, we could find out what pages are our customers frequently viewing. What are they ordering? Okay. Imagine if we ran a marketing campaign, we can find out how successful that marketing campaign was from a business intelligence dashboard. And then finally, from a global perspective, we want to be able to observe our data worldwide. We want to be able to compare it to other companies. So we can glean that type of information from a global intelligence dashboard. So again, ladies and gentlemen, these are just examples of dashboards that can be created within our tool, okay? Now you're wondering, well, okay, that's great, Odell, but where are we getting the data from? Awesome. We're using your data, all of that massive volumes of machine data, such as logs and metrics and traces, whether it comes from apps, microservices, cloud, SaaS, wherever your data, your logs and metrics are coming from, we're going to utilize that to build those dashboards off of, okay? Now, what do we offer? We offer analytics. One of the key offerings we have is we're a multi-tenancy environment, which means we're very secure. Security is priority number 1 for us. One of our core values is we're in it with our customers from beginning to end, okay? And we want to keep that a continuous relationship. Security is priority number 1. If your company needs to grow and add more space, or if they need to downsize and decrease, we're elastic. We're scalable. So we'll meet your needs if you need to grow or downsize, okay? You're going to see in our upcoming labs that we have some machine learning and some advanced analytic capabilities. Some customers would like to incorporate Sumo Logic, so they've actually utilized the application programming interfaces. So there's APIs that you can utilize as well. As I mentioned, security is priority number one. If you look over to the right on this row here, you'll see our attestments. These are some of our attestments. Our attestments are up to date. So we are SOC 2 certified, FedRAMP certified, HIPAA certified. And those are just some of our certifications. And again, they're all up to date. And then finally, your people. And what we mean by that is you can achieve collaboration across all lines of your business, okay? You can have a single source to facilitate for speedy decision-making. So the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, any findings that you have, you can share across all lines of your business, okay? So the takeaway from this screen here is one, you can build dashboards in the tool. Two, we're utilizing your logs and your metrics. Three, we offer analytics, okay? And four, your entire company, all of your lines of your business will be able to share these results and findings. Now, when it comes to monitoring and troubleshooting, there's actually a process that we want to introduce you to, okay? So one of the first steps in the process is to be alerted. So we can set up alerts in our tool. We can set up Slack alerts, PagerDuty, webhooks, HipChat, okay? So what you're seeing in the very first process over there is a dashboard and an alerting mechanism. Okay, so the first thing we want to do when we're monitoring and we're troubleshooting is we want to be notified of any critical events. How are we going to be notified? We're going to get alerts. Okay, so that's the first step. Okay, once we get notified of a critical event and we look at the alert, we can then go look at the metrics to see historically what's going on. So we can look at our metrics and find all of the history of things that are going on. Once we find out what's going on, then we can go look at the logs and indicate and find out why it happened. So this process is we get alerted. We look at the historical amounts of data through the metrics. Then we look at the logs to find out why it happened, okay? I want you to bear with me for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to demonstrate a monitoring and troubleshooting example. So let's imagine, I'm going to lean on your imagination quite a bit here. So let's imagine that I work for a travel company. The travel company is referred to as Travel Logic, okay? We set up an alerting system for our travel company, okay? Right now I'm in Slack. You're seeing Slack. We set up some alerts. I have 2 production environments, okay? I see that the production 9 environment is in bold. So that indicates to me there's something happened. So I am being notified of a critical event. So I'll go down to the latest alert here in my Slack. And I can see here that there was a gateway response time outlier on my production 9 environment. Okay, it tells me what time it happened. It also has 2 links for me within this alert. So I'm demonstrating an alert through Slack, but these are the capabilities that you can build within our tool. So when I click on this, pardon me, this go operational overview, it's actually going to take me into the actual Sumo Logic environment. And let me go ahead and get in here real quickly. I'm sorry, this wasn't up already. Apologize for that. So again, all I did so far was I was alerted. So within our alerting mechanism, we have the ability to click on a link. And one of the links that we were clicking on was an overview dashboard. All right, let me go back to where I was and click on that Go Operational Overview. So I had to be logged into the CIP. So that's why it didn't just automatically launch. But anyhow, now that I'm logged in, I was able to go to Slack and then click on that dashboard. So that dashboard in that alerting system brings me right here, okay? Now we're going to get an opportunity to get into the training environment, and we're going to kick the tires, look under the hood. We're going to play around so you can understand it. But I want you to bear with me right now as I'm going through a demonstration. Right now, I've been alerted through Slack. Within Slack, there was a link that allowed me to come to this dashboard. This dashboard, again, has green and red on it. I am going to lean on your imagination. I want you to imagine a stoplight, okay? A stoplight has red, green, and yellow on it. Green is good. Red is bad. We need to investigate. Yellow is a warning. We'll keep our eye on it. So if we take a look at this 12 panel dashboard, we can see our service nerds are good, our cache is good, some latency is good, the database error warnings are good. So I see a bunch of green here. Again, we're a travel company, all right? I also see some red here. So our job queues, our payment service. Wait a minute now. We just came out of one of the largest returns to travel after the pandemic just about a week or so ago. We don't want a bunch of bottlenecks. So we can see here that we have some issues with our job queue, our payment services, and our low balance latency. So we want to take a look at our checkout service. Okay. Now, one of the features in our tool is you can build a drill through. And what I mean by that is I can click on this dashboard panel and it's going to drill through and go to another dashboard panel. You can build that in our tool. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at the checkout service. I'm going to click on it. It's going to take me to a more detailed dashboard. Okay. Now, let me digress for a moment. Remember, I was over in Slack and I got alerted. I clicked on the Go Operational Overview, which gave me those 12 panels. I could have clicked on the Go to Service Detail and went to those 6 panels. So I'm demonstrating multiple ways to achieve the same goal. Okay, so we can either go in through our alerting mechanism and get to these dashboards, or we can come into the CIP, the Continuous Intelligence Platform, and get to these dashboards. Okay, anyhow, so again, initially we looked at the overview. That's these 12 panels here. Now, let me just give you a little tip, ladies and gentlemen. Each one of these panels has an underlying query. You're going to see how you and I will build a dashboard in our labs based off of underlying queries. Anyhow, I digress. So we looked at the 12. We know that there's a query under each one of these panels. We drilled on one of the panels, which had taken us to a more detailed panel. So the panel that we're seeing now is our service detail. Now, here we can see our bookings, errors in the last 7 days. We can see our CPU total memory. You can see our latency. We see in our latency, we have some spikes and peaks. We can see our outliers within our latency averages, etc. Also within our dashboards and our charts, our legends are interactive. What do you mean, Odell? Well, right now, if I look at bookings, I can see there was errors, then there was lull, then there was more errors, then there was good. I can turn off my successes by going to the legend and clicking on it. So now I'm seeing only my errors, okay? So again, just be aware these legends are interactive. So again, I'm trying to find out why I was alerted. So what we are going to do is we're going to look at our CPU and our total memory. Remember, that's where we started out at. We started out looking at this here checkout service here, okay? It allowed us to go to our more detailed. We want to look at our CPU and travel and our total memory. Now, in this example, ladies and gentlemen, there's no underlining dashboard to go to, okay? We want to look at the historical data, the metrics for this panel, Okay, so we want to look at the metrics for our CPU and total memory. In order to do that, in the top right corner of this panel, you'll see a little icon there. Again, you're just watching. It says show and metric. So that's going to launch a tab for me and show you the metrics. Okay, so we can see our CPU and our memory is what this metric is gaining. Now, just to kind of describe what's going on, in case you take the exam and a question appears on the exam, like when you look at the metrics, what is the heat map? This is a heat map right here, okay? The colors get darker based on the more messages. Notice here, I have a light, then there's no color at all, then there's color again. So this heat map, again, gets darker based on the amount of messages, okay? You'll notice here, again, as I mentioned, we're looking at CPU and we're looking at our memory, but down at the very bottom, we see the underlying query. So remember, as I mentioned, each one of these panels has an underlying query. What we did was we went in the metric, okay? And from the metric, which is our historical data, we can now look at the actual underlying query. Now, we have another technique in our tool. Remember, I talked about that heat map. This is minute by minute blocks here, minute by minute blocks. I can click on any one of these blocks by holding down my shift key and my left mouse. And what that'll do for me is that'll open up a new tab for the log search for that actual underlying query. So again, hopefully I'm giving you breadcrumbs where you're following me. We started out very big and then we went granular and even more granular. And now we're down to the actual logs, okay? Now, if you take a look at this query, it's saying the source category, you're looking at your checkout logs. For those checkout logs, we're using a keyword. We're either looking for error or exception. All right, so when I run through here, I can go through and find that error and exception are throughout this here code, okay? So it brought back all of the error and exception messages. Now, I can see there's 423 right here results of errors and exceptions for my checkout. But I want to see all of my checkout messages. So I'm removing the keyword. I'm also going to give it a little bit more time here. Okay, we'll talk about all this stuff when we get in and kick the tires, ladies and gentlemen. Just let me get through the demo, okay? My goal here is to find out what happened, okay? We see that the CPU and the memory is spiked and high at a certain point in time, okay? So we're going to find out why by looking at the logs. So I run this here, my checkout. Now, if you take a look here, I have over 27,000 checkout messages. Before, when we ran it, we had a very low number because we had a keyword. But without a keyword, we're bringing back all the messages. So I see 27,000. I'm looking at page 1 of 1,120. Okay. Now, to save us from having to look at all 27,000 messages, we want to utilize some of that that machine learning, that advanced analytics that Odell discussed earlier. We want to use some of that now. So we're going to use the log reduce advanced analytic. And basically what the log reduce does, ladies and gentlemen, it goes through those 27,000 records and it looks for patterns and it groups those patterns together, okay? What that's going to do is save us from having to look at the same message over and over and over again. So watch what happens. I'm using the log reduce. It changed my actual query. You see a pipe now, and you'll see the operator log reduce. And operators, typically you'll see it in a different color. And as we go through this here set of labs, you're going to start seeing that. Now, so that log reduce is going through all of those messages. It created a signatures tab. So that log reduce generated a signatures tab, and it's going through all of those messages, and it's saying, hey, Odell, it's done already. It says, I see this message here 10,000 times. So of the 27,000, I see this one 10,000 times. Now you might be looking at the message and you might see, well, what are these asterisks here, Odell? Well, that means the numbers were different. So the credit card number might be different. The transaction ID may be different. So that's why you see the asterisks. But again, you can see the messages that I see and how many times they are. Okay, our goal is to find out what happened. Now, one of the other things we can do here is we can change the sort order of our column headers just by clicking on the column header. So right now you see it's in the descending order. I click on the column header one time and it's ascending, okay? Again, we're looking at and trying to find out why something happened. We know our CPU and memory spiked, so we're gonna find out. Now this message here, it occurred one time. This message, here's an error, it occurred one time. Okay, so I'm gonna keep on scrolling through here until I find that anomaly, that needle in the haystack, okay? So I'm scrolling here and I see, okay, some more messages. I'll go to the next page and there's some messages, okay? All right, looks good. So again, a lot of these messages happen maybe once or twice, okay? Again, I'm looking for an anomaly, something that stands out, something that's gonna just say, oh, that's what it is, okay? So again, I'm looking through here. All of these messages looks, successful. And maybe I'll get to the fourth page. And let's see here. Did they give me anything here? Nope. Everything looks good so far. I'll scroll through here and I'll get here and I'll see some more messages. Again, everything looks successful. So far, so good. So here, I'll eventually get down to the successful. There's a processing, unable to book flight. So again, I'm starting to get those messages and starting to get those problems. I see failures here, okay? I see a credit card problem here. So again, all I'm doing is going through these log messages and trying to identify an anomaly, okay? And I'm gonna run this one more time. Thanks for your patience. Again, running the log reduce one more time to kind of pick out that anomaly. I might have went through it too fast, but I'm going to see that error that I'm looking for. Once all of the results, notice it's still gathering results here. Now it's done. And again, I'm going to change my sort order because I want to see this error only happened one time or twice maybe. So again, let's see here. Here's an error right here, checkout process. Look, the transaction ID was a problem here. So again, here it looks like here's the issue right here. I might be able to find a little bit more details. Let me look in here if they have any more. All right, so again, looks like that was going to be the error. So I was able to narrow down by looking at the logs and finding out that issue. Okay, all right. Now let's get back to our actual slides here. And awesome. So we started out, ladies and gentlemen, with that demo. I was alerted, okay? I looked at dashboards. So I was alerted, I was notified through Slack, I looked at dashboards. Within one of those dashboards, we looked at the metrics to find out what's going on. And then from within our metrics, we looked at the logs to find out why it was happening. We actually saw one of the error messages. Again, good question, Sudler. The error message that we were actually looking for didn't show up, but again, that message would allow us to differentiate from all the other messages, it being appearing only one time, okay? How do you reduce the height of the result count per time period graph panel, query panel? So again, you can readjust or you can change the time period there, Chi. Okay, and I'll show you that shortly, okay? All right, let's go ahead and keep going here. Thank you so much. All right, so again, as I mentioned, we started out with alerts. We will then looked at the metrics and then the logs. Now, there's also a logical data flow. And again, I'm going to lean on your imagination here, ladies and gentlemen. When I talk about that logical data flow, I want you to imagine a highway. And on one end of the highway is Sumo Logic, the cloud-based environment. On the other end of the highway is your logs and your metrics and your traces. Somehow we have to use a vehicle to get your logs, metrics, and traces into our Sumo environment. The vehicle that I'm referring to is called a collector. A collector defines your sources. So wherever your logs and metrics are, that collector is going to define where they are. A collector is a lightweight Java app. It encrypts, compresses, and sends your logs and your metrics to our Sumo environment. Okay, so again, the first step in the logical data flow is to utilize a collector. Now, if you want to learn more about collectors, we offer an administration course. That course is actually coming up on Thursday. Okay, and we actually install a collector. All right. So the first thing is to get your logs and metrics into our environment, and you do that by using collectors. Once your logs and metrics are in our environment, then you can use operators to search and analyze, and you can display your results in different types of charts, okay? Once you get your results, you can then put them in visualizations such as dashboards and build alerts where we will monitor and visualize. So just like you saw me do in the demonstration, I set up some alerts off of my dashboards. That's the actual logical data flow. So the big takeaway here, get your logs and metrics in our environment by using collectors. Once you have the data in there, then you're going to go ahead and search and analyze through them by using operators and displaying them in different operator outputs. And then finally, you'll build some visualizations as some alerts so you can monitor your dashboards. Now, I know this slide looks a bit of overwhelming, but what we're going to do is go ahead and divide it in half. So let's divide this slide in half. Remember, I was leaning on your imagination, and I said, imagine a highway. So on one end of the highway was Sumo Logic. So here's the Sumo Logic cloud-based environment, okay? On the other end of the highway are your logs and your metrics and your traces. We're gonna divide this slide in half. There's two vehicles to get your logs and metrics and traces into our environment. One vehicle is called an install collector. The other vehicle is called a hosted collector, okay? So an install collector, typically for your on-prem environments. One example here is we've installed a collector on several servers, okay? This is more of a distributed approach, okay? That collectors or those collectors are going to encrypt, compress, and send your logs through the firewall up into the Sumo Logic environment. Another approach for on-prem is maybe you have a standalone server where you installed an actual install collector. It's going to encrypt, compress all of those logs that are being sent to it, all of those metrics that are being sent to it. It's going to encrypt and compress and send those up through the firewall into the Sumo Logic environment. So again, on the left side, the install collectors are typically for your on-prem servers where you're collecting those logs and metrics from. On the other side here, you'll see a hosted collector. There's no installation, ladies and gentlemen. If your logs and metrics are already on AWS or on the Google Cloud or in Azure already, if they're already out there, then you and I can just find out where the actual logs are located. And if there's any access permissions, Sumo Logic is going to host those logs and metrics. So the big takeaway from this screenshot is there's two ways of getting your logs and metrics into Sumo Logic. You're either going to use an install collector, which is typically for on-prem, or you're going to use a hosted collector, which is for your cloud logs and metrics. Okay. Now, once your logs and metrics are in our environment, you're going to need to query those to create some searches and things of that sort. We utilize the metadata tags to actually grab our log and metrics out of the Sumo environment. You're seeing 5 examples of metadata tags, and a tag is essentially a name given to a description. For example, you could use the underscore collector tag and set that tag equal to the host name, okay? And that host name it's a good approach, but it's a broad approach because you're trying to get to the logs and metrics, but it'll work, okay? Another example is if you wanted to use the underscore source name, and you can set that to name and the path of the log file. That's another approach, okay? And then finally here is your source category, which is in bold. That's our recommended approach. That's our preferred. That's the one you'll see us use most often. So the underscore source category metadata tag can be freely configured, okay? So again, you can go ahead and set your underscore source category metadata tag equal to labs Apache access, or maybe labs Apache era, or maybe prod Apache era, or maybe AWS East region Apache access. So again, we're giving you examples, but you can freely configure that particular one, okay? All right. So now we're going to allow you, me, us to log into our training environment. You're logging into our training environment because we know the data in there. We control that environment. Be aware that this training environment will be available to you, and the password changes the first Monday of every month. So we just changed the password yesterday. So you have to play in this environment until the first Monday of the next month. Now, what I like each of you to do now is to think of a 3-digit number from 1 to 999. Any number you want, think of that number, okay? While you're thinking of that number, I am going to paste in our credentials into the chat for you. And then I want you to actually watch me log in so you'll get it right, okay? So again, you're logging into our training environment. Put your 3-digit number in the chat so we'll be aware of it. Thank you, Kristen. So you're gonna open up a browser and type in service.sumologic.com. Thank you all for putting in your 3-digit number. You're watching me log in as well. So once you type in a browser that's service.sumologic.com, you're going to go ahead and type in, just like the credentials that I put in the chat. I'll put them in there again in case you missed it. You're going to go ahead and type in the word training, the plus symbol, the word analyst, and your 3-digit number, okay, at sumologic.com. So that's what you need to type in as an email address. You're using your own 3-digit number, okay? And then the password is uppercase S for security, and then 22 exclamation mark. And I'm going to turn it on because I might have fat fingered it. All right, and then sign in. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Naheem. All right, so if you could all please confirm that you were able to log into our training environment. Thank you, Travis. Let us know if you have any problems. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thank you, Jack 007, got you. Thank you, Raymond. Let us know if you have any problems getting in. I don't want to leave anyone. Okay, hopefully everyone's into our training environment. Now, what we are about to do, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to kick the tires, look under the hood, drive the car around the block. I use a car analogy when teaching this course because we need to get comfortable with the environment. We need to feel around and understand, be able to click and know where we're going, okay? So let's do that first. So the first thing I want you to be aware of, ladies and gentlemen, you're in our training environment. Now, some of you may see a bunch of tabs at the top of the screen. If you do, I'm demonstrating. If you saw a bunch of tabs, that means someone else might have used that ID. No big deal. You can go to any one of those tabs. There's 3 dots there, and you can close all the tabs, okay? Some of you may have had that. I'm just showing you what you could do to get rid of those tabs within our CIP, okay? Now, some of you may have came in and you didn't see our navigation panel. You saw a stack of blueberry pancakes, okay? So you might see the phrase Sumo Logic and a stack of pancakes there. If you click on the stack of pancakes, you now see our actual navigation panel. If you click on the arrow, it hides it, the pancakes displays it. Hide and display. Our navigation panel is what I'm describing, okay? In our navigation panel, there's 4 tabs, okay? There's the recent folder tab, where you can find things that you recently opened, recent searches, recent dashboards, your recent. To the right of that is your favorites. If you have favorited an item, it's going to be stored in your favorites folder. To the right of that is your personal folder, okay? If you save something, create and save something, it's going to be stored in your personal folder. So whenever you save something, you have a folder that it saves to automatically. It's your personal folder. And then lastly is the library. That's where if you share something with the entire company, this is where you'll find it. If your administrator shared something with the entire company, it'll be found in the library. Each one of these tabs has the ability to be searched. So there's the search area, okay? Below the search, you'll see a darker shaded area. So we're still in our dashboard panel, in our navigation panel. You'll see a darker shaded area. We refer to this as our main menu. Now, there's one thing in the main menu that I want to go ahead and point out that often happens, okay? Customers ask, hey, Odell, how do I log out of the CIP? Great question. In the navigation panel, in the main menu, if you click on the user ID that you logged in as, if you click on that, you'll then be able to see the word sign out, okay? All right, so that was the navigation panel. That was the main menu. That's how you log out, okay? Now, let's go over to the 3 tabs on to the right of the navigation panel. You'll see a house for your home. You'll see a folder for your library, and you'll see a bell for your alerts. We're going to stay on our home tab. So make sure you're on your home tab. Under the home tab, there's 3 links. The first link is the home link. So under the home tab is the home link. In the home link, you have various types of ways of searching. You also have areas where you recently ran something or opened something, or any recommended dashboards or any pinned search. Right now, we're on the home tab, the home link. Let's go ahead and click on the home tab, the learn link. Now, we provide a starting point for you, okay? So we have 5 videos, 5 micro lesson quick start videos out there for you that'll help you. So if you want to learn more about the continuous intelligence platform, that main video is there for you. If you want to learn more about using data within the Sumo Logic, data collection strategies, any built. So we have those videos there for you as starting points. Also be aware there's tons of videos, YouTube's videos available out there for you as well. Okay. All right. Now, Below the videos, if you scroll down, we're still on the home tab, Learn link. You're going to see that there's fundamentals. Those are the labs that you and I are going to use to complete this course. Now, you'll see that mine are checked. That's because I've done this class at least a zillion times. So these are checked. Yours may be checked, but that's not a big deal. Yours may not be checked. It's not a big deal. You can always click on them and utilize them. Again, if you did it for the first time, it checks them to let you know that you've done it. So again, no worries there. You can also take these courses self-service as well. Again, you're taking right now with an instructor, but you can take them self-service. So here's our fundamentals. Again, some of you may want to take the administration and learn how to build collectors. Again, here are the lab steps for our administration. So we're still on the home tab, the Learn link. There's a lot of information out here for you. Over to the right of the administration labs steps, you have 6 blocks over there, 6 boxes, okay? The first box, remember earlier, ladies and gentlemen, I talked about a logical data flow. And one of the things that I mentioned was in that data flow, the first step in the logical data flow is to get your logs and metrics into our environment using collectors. That was the first step, okay? And then the second step was to build queries, to search and analyze. And it talked about something called operators. When we click on this cheat sheet box, it actually gives us examples and descriptions of all the operators. So some of you that will be taking the Search Mastery course tomorrow, we're going to utilize some of these operators in our Search Mastery course, okay? I am closing the cheat sheet tab and going back to the CIP. Now, you'll see next, the next box to the right of the cheat sheet is our documentation. Our full documentation is available for you. It's out there, okay? And one of the key things that you can utilize the actual documentation for is the starting point. You can start here. Once you click on that start here, maybe you want to find out about Sumo Logic. And again, we give you links in there, forgot your password, components, again, other information. Or maybe you want to go ahead and take some more labs. So you can come to the quick start labs and tutorials. So here's those fundamentals, which is what we're going to do. The administration, which you saw as well on the actual Learn link. The Search Mastery lab guide is here. If you want to learn about building SOC dashboards, again, you can come to the take the cloud security and monitoring analytics. There's the metrics mastery. So here's another area for you. If you want to continue learning, you can come out here as well. I am closing the tab for our documentation and going back to the CIP. All right, now, the next tab on the top line, the next block on the top line is what's new. Again, it's a good idea to keep track of what's new coming down in the product. The next block there is you might need to add a support ticket. So again, you can add a support ticket right here. After that is maybe you want to get trained. You want some more training. So you can click on our Get Training. That opens up our LMS system and you can see our upcoming courses. Okay. Now we typically offer a morning session and a noon session. Excuse me, an evening session. You guys are taking the evening session for this course. We have already had our morning session. We'll do the same thing for our Search Mastery as well as our administration. So these are our upcoming courses. You can quickly register here for them as well. I am closing the Get Trained tab and going back to the CIP. And then lastly, the community. Again, that community block is where other Sumo users share information, find out information, look for information, okay? So again, ladies and gentlemen, all we're doing is kicking the tires, looking under the hood, driving the car around the block, trying to get comfortable with the environment. So we looked at so far our home tab, our home link, our Learn link. Let's go ahead and click on the certification link, okay? Now, first of all, be aware when it comes to you taking the certification test, you're not going to take it in a training environment. You don't want your certification to read, congratulations, training analyst number whatever, you've just completed fundamentals. So one of the things you're going to do is when it gets to that time, I'll talk about it again, you're going to log out of our training environment and then log into your company's Sumo environment. Okay. Anyhow, I wanted to demonstrate a specific reason about certification link other than getting certified. So I'm on the certification link under the home tab. I'm going to click get certified. Another reason to come out here, ladies and gentlemen, is to find the recordings. All of our courses typically have a recording, okay? So you can come out to get trained and then you can look for the recorded live trainings, okay? You can look at each one of our classes. They're all out here, okay? So for example, you can come out here if you wanted to hear the lecture again, you can come out here to the fundamentals. You can quickly register and you're gonna hear the actual 2-hour lecture of what I'm giving you right now, the same lecture. You'll see the actual, you have the ability to download the fundamental slides as well as the lab guide. So again, if you want to do some self-servicing learning as well, that capability is here for you. You can come out here and hear the video on your own, come out here and take, download the slides and the lab guides as well for all of our courses, okay? All right, so that was the get certified, okay? Any questions so far? All right, very good. Now, let's go ahead and click on our Learn link. And we're gonna go ahead and start with our lab 1. Now, let me just point out a few techniques here, ladies and gentlemen. Let me point out a few things here. So if you're in a Google Chrome environment, one of the techniques that you have is when I click on my lab guide, it adds another tab. But if I'm in a Google Chrome environment, I can right click on that tab and pin it. Now, the advantage of pinning it is it allows me to quickly toggle between the CIP and the lab guide. Again, that's just if you're in a Google Chrome environment. Again, you can pin your tabs to allow you to toggle. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, ladies and gentlemen. So we're on lab number 1, and in case someone can't get to it, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat for you. There is the actual lab guide as well. You've already signed in, so we've done the sign in part. What we want to do is see what data is available. Now, let me kind of give you some background to this. Again, I'm going to lean on your imagination. Let's imagine that your administrator for the Sumo environment, he or she created the collectors and the sources for you, but they didn't notify you about it. So you want to go and find out if those sources were defined. So we're going to give you a demonstration of how you do that. We're going to do this together, okay? So let's go back to the CIP together. Make sure your navigation panel is visible. Let's go down to the main menu, the darker shaded area, the main menu. Let's click on the Manage Data link. Let's click on the sublink Collections. Odell, what are we doing? We're going to identify all of the collectors and sources that were defined. So this would be an example of, I would go out there and look and see if the collector was defined already. So that's what we're doing. Now, what you're seeing is the collection tab. You see first an area of search. Then under there, you're seeing all of the collectors. You can limit that if you wanted to by clicking the drop-down arrow. We're seeing the top 10. But we see also that all of our collectors have all been expanded. So what that means, it shows all of the underlying sources. So we're going to go ahead and choose none. So what that does for us is it collapses the collectors and the sources. So we now only see the collectors. We don't see the sources, okay? Now you're also gonna notice you're logged into our training environment as a training analyst. You don't have the ability to create a collector. If you come back on Thursday in the administration course, we use another ID, the admin ID, and we're able to create a collector from there. Okay. Anyhow, I'm going to digress on this just a little bit more. I'm going to go in here to the search area and I'm going to type in and look for Okta. Okay. I'm using mixed case because to demonstrate to you that the search there is case insensitive. Okay. You don't have to do this. Again, I'm just demonstrating that we can search for an actual collector. Right now, I see that this search for Okta brought back 2 collectors. If I go across, I see that it's green. Remember the stoplight that I told you to keep in your imagination? Green is good. I see the type of collector, it's hosted. Do you guys remember the other type of collector? It's hosted, and what's the other? You can put that in chat for me. If I go over, I can see that there's, thank you, installed. That's correct, Valita. Anad, you guys are correct. Guhan, yes. Raymond, you guys are all great. So again, the 2 types of collectors are hosted and installed. We can see these are hosted. I can see on the first row that it has 1 source defined underneath it. I see in the last hour, there has been some activity. I see in the last hour, it ingested over 17,000 messages. Okay, that's the collector. If I expand the collector, I can see the source that is defined. Oh, this is bringing back my Okta logs. Okay, I'm going to collapse that first collector and look at the second collector. So the second one here, again, it's healthy, it's green, it's hosted. So again, you can conclude that it's cloud-based. This collector has 5 sources defined underneath it. Over the last hour, it has some activity, and the amount of messages is over 26,000 in the last hour. If I expand this collector, I can see, oh, it's bringing back my CloudTrail data, my guard duty, my S3 buckets, my VPC flows. So again, this collector has 5 sources defined underneath it. A collector can have up to 1,000 sources, okay? All right, so going back to our actual lab guide, we've done that part. Now we want to do the same search by running a quick search. So we're going to create a log search. But what I'd like you to do first, under number 4, ladies and gentlemen, in your actual lab guide, under number 4, there's a query there. I want you to go ahead and copy that query to memory. If you can't copy, you can, of course, type it. I'll put it in the chat for you as well, okay? So let's go back to the CIP. We can close that collection tab by clicking the X. We don't need it anymore. We can always get back to it by going to Manage Collection, okay? I like keeping a sort of a clean desktop. So again, I don't have any tabs open. I'm now going to click on the New Log Search. So we're going to do a new log search, and let's go ahead and paste in that code. And if you're typing, that's an asterisk space pipe space the word count by underscore source category. Okay, now let's read and find out what this is talking about here, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, we talked about our favorite metadata tag. Here it is, source category. Now, our tool has some similar features as SQL, as SQL. It has some similar features. One of those similarities is the asterisk. That means a wildcard, just like it means in SQL, it's a wildcard. So this expression is saying count all of my source category items. Count them all for the last 15 minutes. So we would click on the blue magnifying glass to run it. And now what we're seeing is, first of all, we're seeing a histogram of a minute by minute. We're then seeing underneath the histogram the status, the elapsed time, and the number of results. And if you ever need it, your session ID is there as well. Okay, we see the messages tab, so where we see the time the message happened and the original message. And since we're using a count by, ladies and gentlemen, in our query, whenever we use an aggregate, it's going to automatically give you an aggregates tab. So on this aggregates tab, we can see all of our source categories and the total count of messages. So we can see right here, Kubernetes has over 11,000 messages being ingested. Okay, we'll talk more about the query area and all of that coming up shortly. Again, that was just a quick example of displaying all of the messages per each source category. Now, suppose that we are interested in log messages from Apache Access, okay? We want to start creating queries to find messages that we're interested in, but we might not have to create queries. What if someone in our organization has already saved searches and dashboards that are related to Apache, Apache Access? If someone has done that, then we can consume them, okay? Or if they haven't, then we can go ahead and add some apps. So we're going to look at those two scenarios now. We want to look at our Apache Access messages, log messages. So we're going to go ahead and look and find if someone has created some searches and dashboards that we can actually consume. So let's go ahead and go back to our CIP. Make sure you're on the library icon. Make sure you're on the library in your navigation panel, okay? Click in the search area and case insensitive. Let's type in the word Apache Access, case insensitive, and you can hit the enter key. So if anyone shared something with the entire organization, we could find it in the library. We did find something. There's an Apache Access folder there. If we expand that folder, we see that someone has created an actual dashboard for Apache Access. It reads Apache Access Overview. Let's go ahead and click on it. If you get any informational messages, you can ignore those. But this particular dashboard, again, that someone shared with us, has a visitor location panel. It can show me my uptime, the top URL, top 10 URLs, the bytes per second. So these dashboard panels have some good information on them. But here's the scenario. We actually consume this from someone that shared it. We don't know if they changed or tinkered with any of the queries. We don't know that, okay? This could be great. This could be what we wanted. So we know how to do that. We can quickly search for it in our library and we can consume it, all right? Now, another approach, ladies and gentlemen, let's suppose that the dashboard that we're looking for doesn't exist, okay? Or the library that we search for it's not useful, okay? Now here's what I want you to be aware of. It's a good idea, ladies and gentlemen, to install the Apache Access app. What's that, Odell? Sumo Logic apps deliver out-of-the-box dashboards. They deliver out-of-the-box save searches. They deliver out-of-the-box field extractions for popular data sources. And here's the key. They are the best way to start exploring a new data source on your own, okay? So let me just give you the scenario. We actually look for, within our company, someone that had saved and shared an Apache Access set of dashboards. We got it. But we don't know if they tinkered with it or changed it to any subtleness. We don't know that. So what you and I are going to do is we're going to go to the Sumo Logic's applications and we're going to go ahead and download a pristine version of Apache app. So let's go ahead and go back to our CIP. Okay. And let's go into our main menu. Main menu is the darker shaded area. Let's go ahead and click on our app catalog. And what you're seeing here is a lot of different sources here that you choose by category, but we have a search area. Let's go ahead and place our cursor in the search area. And again, this is case insensitive. So let's type in Apache access. We can just type in Apache, okay? And when we type in Apache, you should see that there is a Apache app feather. That's the one we want, the one with the feather, okay? And when we click on that, notice what it does for you, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, it tells you an overview. It says, hey, Odell. Yours might not say, hey, Odell, but it says, hey, Odell, the Apache app is a unified logs and metrics app that helps you monitor the availability, monitor the performance, monitor the health, monitor the resource utilization for Apache web service. This is perfect. That's what we wanted. Okay. Also, within here, if you scroll down just a little bit more, you can see it gives you examples of the dashboards that it's going to provide you with. Okay. Now we're in a wizard mode. So we're going to go ahead and click on the phrase add to integration. So click on that phrase. Again, I said we're in a wizard mode. In this example, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to create a filter. So you see where it reads Apache log source? Right now it reads source category. Over to the right, there's a drop down arrow. If you click that drop down arrow, it allows you to choose enter a custom data filter. That's what you and I are going to do. We're going to use a custom data filter, okay? And then we can type in here web server. Let me make sure I get it right. We could copy it as well, but it's web server underscore system equals Apache. If you want to copy it, it's under number 4 in your lab guide. Just make sure when you copy it that you don't copy the period that's at the end of the sentence. We're going to copy that or type in there. So let's go back here. You see it says enter custom data filter. And then over to the right, we're just going to type in web server underscore system equals Apache. Okay. Once you go ahead and do that, you can go ahead and click next. You should get an informational message that says succeeded or success. Okay. Once you get that success message, you can go ahead and exit out of the app catalog by clicking on the exit in the top right box, and you can also close out of that tab. If you want to find out where that newly created Apache access is, you click on your personal folder tab. You should now see a folder in your personal folder called Apache. If you expand that folder, you should then see a dashboard called Apache Overview. Okay. So now this one is pristine. Okay. We can see our uptime, our request time. No one had actually tinkered with it because we downloaded it from the actual app catalog. Okay. Again, we can see our visitors location, where people are logging in from, etc. We can also share what we've actually downloaded from the catalog. Okay. Now, back here in my navigation panel, ladies and gentlemen, I can go to the Apache folder, click on the 3 dots, and choose share. And here I can choose where it says share with specific users or roles or groups. I can click there. Okay, and I can choose entire organization or users, groups, or roles. Okay, you and I are just going to choose entire organization. Okay, we can also notify recipients if we wanted to as well. Okay, now in case this comes up on an exam anywhere, when it comes to sharing, you have the access of view, edit, or manage. There's no read and there's no delete. It's view, edit, and manage to share. Okay. Now, once I share this, then others can go to the library and search for Apache or whatever name I gave it. They can search for it and find it here. Okay. All right. So we did all of that. We shared it. All right. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You've completed the first part. Okay. You signed into Sumo Logic. You searched for source categories to see what data was available. You searched for and viewed a dashboard that has been shared by someone in your organization. And then you installed an app, shared it with others, and opened one of the dashboards to include an app. Okay. All right, so this is a good time for us to go ahead and take our break. So I'll put up the timer and I'll go ahead and pause I'll see you in 5. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you got an opportunity to breathe, stretch, exhale, get away from the actual monitor for a moment. We had just completed lab number 1, okay? Within our lab guide, ladies and gentlemen, in the bottom right corner of our lab guide, you'll see the link to go to lab number 2. So let's all go to lab number 2, search for log data. Again, lab number 2. Now, what we want to do here is we want to show you how to use a search page and search to parse and aggregate your log data, okay? So we're going to search for a log message within our source category that includes the keyword get, okay? So under number 2, ladies and gentlemen, under number 2, let's go ahead and highlight that query under number 2 and copy it. And let's go ahead and put that query in a new log search. So let's go back to the CIP. If you have any tabs open, let's close them all. Just close all the tabs. Now let's go ahead and click on the new button and click on a new log search. Now, I'm going to digress for a moment to show you some of the features of the tool. If you notice, when you place your cursor in the log search area, you start seeing all of the metadata tags. This tool has type ahead. So if I click on search category, source category, I can then go ahead and type in labs and then Apache, and then I can choose from whatever I want. Okay. So again, just be aware that capability is there. We can go ahead and paste what we copied. Let's talk about what we copied as well. So we're using that favorite metadata tag, the source category. There it is. We're bringing back our Apache access messages. We're using an operator, the and. That and is implied, which means we don't have to put it there. It's implied. Okay. We only have it there so to make it easier to read right now. Okay. We're using a keyword. We're looking for all of our access messages that have the get in them. So this code is going to turn back all of access messages that have get in them. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, whenever you create a log search, it's going to by default look at the last 15 minutes. Okay. We actually want to run this particular query for the last 60 minutes. Okay. So you can click on the time where you see that -15, click on that time, and you have 3 columns. You have relative times. These are predefined relative times. You have recent times. If you've never been in the tool, you might not see anything in recent, but you have recent. And then you have custom. Okay. We're going to go ahead and choose the last 60 minutes. So we want to run this here, access log messages that have get in them for the last 60 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and click on the blue button there to run it. So here's our histogram, that minute by minute breakdown. Underneath the histogram, we see the status, the elapsed time, and the results, and our session ID. Under that, we see the messages tab, we see the time, and the message is going to be displayed, the time, and the message. We see we have over 30,000 results. It's not important if our numbers are not the same. That's not the purpose. Again, I have over 30,000 messages in this from this query. I can see that each get is highlighted. I can see that I'm looking at page 1 of 1,000 and plus pages. I can see on this page, this is displaying 25 items per page. Okay. If I wanted to change that 25 items per page, I can go over to the gear symbol over here, this gear symbol, and choose display message preferences and change that number. That's if I wanted to do that. All right, now, so we've actually returned 30,000 access messages that have get in them. Okay. Now let's continue on with our lab guide here. Now that we have those messages, those get messages, we now want to parse the message. Why? Because it makes it easier to scan and interpret. Okay? We are going to parse out for the URL, the status code, the size, and the refer after our get. So whatever follows the get, we're going to build a parse statement that parses out these fields. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it together. Let's go back to our CIP. And again, if I take a look at the first message, I want you to just follow my example first, ladies and gentlemen, so you can get this right. First of all, be aware there's many types of parsing. I'm about to digress for a moment. Be aware that I don't know everything in this tool. I don't, but I have a resource, and I'm going to share that resource with you. It's called help.sumologic.com. You don't have to type this in. I'm just digressing for a moment to illustrate and demonstrate to you, here's your resource for help when you don't know something. Okay, now I came out here for a reason, to show you and demonstrate to you there's several parsing techniques. So I'm searching for parse operators. It gives me a set of links. I'm going to choose the first one, which is typically the one that I want in most cases. But what I wanted to demonstrate to you here, ladies and gentlemen, there's different types of parsing. There's the parse anchor, there's the parse regex, there's JSON parsing, CSV parsing, and so forth. So again, I didn't know all of this. I searched for it, and I can see there's different types of parsings. Okay, I digress to kind of show you the method that I would use if I was going to take an exam, or if I didn't know something, that's what I would do. Anyhow, we are going to use the parse anchor, because all of these messages are formatted the same. So we can use an anchor. If they weren't formatted the same, we could use a parse regex. You'll learn more about that in the search mastery course. Anyhow, let's go and watch me first. So in this very first message, since I'm using a parse anchor approach, I'm going to anchor on the quote to the left of the get, the double quotes. Then I'll highlight everything to the end of the referring URL. So I want yours to look similar to mine, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, you're anchoring on before the double quotes, before the get. You should highlight the URL, the status code, the size, and then there should be a referring URL. So make sure all of that's highlighted. Now you have to do this in this order, because the parse anchor, the parsing anchor is controlled by location. So if you move something out the way, you got to start over. Okay. So again, make sure you're following the steps that I am doing. So that one phrase is highlighted. Let's go ahead and right click on that phrase. We should get a set of right click options. We are going to go ahead and parse selected text. Odell, I don't know. I'm lost. What are we doing? I'm lost. We just saw a query that returned over 30,000 messages. To make it easier for us to read through those 30,000 messages, we're going to parse out some values, okay? So what you should be seeing now is a new box that reads parse text. Again, you want to watch me first. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight after the get that /http 1.1. I'm going to highlight that, okay? Once I highlight it, I notice there's a yellow phrase that reads, click to extract this value. So when I click on that yellow phrase, it replaces what I had highlighted with an asterisk. So I now need to go down into the fields area and give that replacement a field name. And we're going to call it URL. And since we're going to do this 3 more times, we're going to type a comma after that field name. As I mentioned, this parse anchor is position based, which means if you take something out of, it's not going to work. Okay. So again, it's position based. Now, after the asterisk, I see a numeric value. I'm going to highlight that numeric value. Okay. Once I highlight that numeric value, again, I see that yellow phrase, click to extract this value. So we click it, and this time we're going to give it a field name of status underscore code. We don't use spaces, we use underscores. You can't use spaces, use underscores. You add a comma after that because we're going to do it 2 more times. Let's go ahead and highlight the value after the status code asterisk, highlight that value. Again, we see that yellow phrase. We'll click on that phrase and we'll call that size and add a comma. And then lastly, we'll highlight the referring URL. The referring URL, not the quotes, just the actual URL. We'll highlight that, click to extract this value, and we'll call it referrer. Hey, Odell, do I have to use the phrase URL, status code, size, and refer? No, you could have used A, B, C, and D, but it wouldn't have logically made sense. We just used some logical field names, but you could have called it anything you want. There's no magic to those names, okay? So now we can go ahead and click submit. If you have any problems with your query, you can go back to the lab guide and copy the query from the lab guide. I'll also paste it in the actual chat here for you in case someone had some problems, okay? So let's look at that next line to kind of understand what it's doing. So again, we're getting our access messages. We're bringing back the get messages because we're using a keyword. We're piping, which means we're continuing our expression by using the pipe. We're using the parse operator, and it's parsing out URL, status code, size, and referrer, okay? Let's go ahead and run that. Just because we went through the parsing step doesn't mean anything changed other than the query. Now we have to run it. Now, what I want you that wow thing I want you to see here, ladies and gentlemen, is first of all, in your messages tab, not only did you have time and message being displayed, you now have those fields, refer, size, status code, and URL. Those are now all column headers and the values are there now. So this makes it easier if I wanted to look for a specific status code or specific size or what have you, okay? All right, let's go back to our lab guide here. We did all of that, that's awesome. Good job. All right, now we wanna save this search, okay? So let's go back to our CIP. To save this search, in the search area, go all the way over to the right. You should see an icon that says save as. Or you can go to the three dots, which is your more, and choose Save As. We can give this search a name. Let's call it Apache status codes and put our initials. Okay, OG here, and I'll put today's date as well. Oh, good question. Good point here. I often get that question as well. Miguel says, hey, refer appeared first in my results. And what I want you to be aware of. So after you guys, everybody, you can go ahead and give it a name and just click save. All right. So notice, ladies and gentlemen, if we look at our query, it says URL, status code, size, and refer. But if we look at our actual fields, they're in alphabetical order. That's all. The tool just puts them in alphabetical order. Time and message is going to always be there, but anything between them has now been put in alphabetical order. So RSSU, that's why that's there. Okay, Miguel, hopefully that helps. All right, so we saved it. You can look in your personal folder. You should now see that search that you just saved. Okay. Yeah, you could, Miguel, Guhan asked, can you change the order? Yes, you can change the order. There's a fields command. So Guhan, you can search the fields command and it'll allow you to put the columns in the order that you want. Great question. All right, let's go back here. We did all of that. All right, so pat yourselves on the back. You've completed part 2. You created a search. You parse the message to make it easier to scan, and you save the search. Okay, let's go to lab 3. Let's chart our data. Lab 3, chart our data. Now, let's build out our query using an aggregation statement to count our results and visualize our data by creating a chart. Now, there's one key point on this here lab guide that I want to point out to you, and it's right here. Only search results that have been aggregated by using a group or an aggregate operator can be charted. Well, what does that mean, Odell? Well, that means that you can't build a chart if you don't have count, min, max, average. If you don't have an aggregation, you won't be able to display your results in a chart. That's the bottom line, okay? Now, together, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and copy under number 1. Let's copy that pipe count by status code. Let's copy that. And let's go back to our CIP. All right, now, let me explain some of the features of our tool. In the actual query area, the search log area, if you want to add a blank line, you place your cursor at the end of the parse statement and you use shift return. Okay, I'm on a Mac, I can use shift return. You might be able to use shift enter or alt enter if you're not on a Mac, but you can use any of those. You want to add a new blank line, and then you can paste in your count by. And let me talk about this statement first, okay? So again, we're looking at our access logs. We want all of our keyword get messages. We're formatting our get by parsing out. And next, we're going to count by. Now, notice on our messages tab, when we did the parse, there's nowhere to actually display our results in a chart. We can't choose a chart anywhere on here to display our results in a chart. But this next line will give us an aggregates tab and allow us to display our results in a chart. So let's go ahead and run this. Notice what happens, ladies and gentlemen. Not only do you have your messages tab where you had all of the original messages, but you now have an aggregates tab. Okay, and we can now display our results in different types of charts. So if I chose a pie chart, here it is. If I want to go back to the values, I click on the very first icon, which is my table. Now I'm back to the values. Now, let me point out a few things in case you ever get this on an exam. On the Messages tab, if you want to export out, you go to the gear symbol and export out. Again, on the Messages tab, if you want to export out, you go to the gear symbol. On the Aggregates tab, if you want to export out, you go to the first icon, Export Results. Okay. All right. Did that. All right, let's scroll down. All right, right now I'm in the second portion of your lab 3. Okay, right in the center. It says, now let's find out when the status codes happened. We can use the time slice operator to find out and count the status codes over time in 1-minute increments. What I'd like for you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is go to number 2 and copy the last 2 lines of number 2. So you're only copying the pipe time slice and the count by time slice status code. Just copy those 2 lines. Go back to the CIP. Make sure the last line is highlighted, that count by status code, and then paste. Okay. Now I'm going to show you another technique here. You learn about this in Search Mastery, but I'm going to introduce it to you here as well. To comment out lines, you use the double slash. So I'm commenting out the last 2 lines. Okay. Just so I can, give you some understanding on what's going on. All right. So we're still parsing out those fields, but the next line there is rendering our results in buckets, 1-minute buckets. Okay, that's what the time slice operator is going to do. And then lastly, this is important, we're using the count by operator. But if you take a look at what we're counting by, we're using something called a placeholder. If you look at our operator time slice, we can't use that in a count by, so we're using this feature, a placeholder. That underscore time slice is a placeholder. So we're going to count by what the time slice has. So we run that. And we get our numbers. Okay, so we still have our Messages tab. We're getting the Aggregates tab because we're using the count by. Okay, now these numbers our time is not in any type of order here, ladies and gentlemen. This is not any type of consecutive order. Okay, remember what I demonstrated during my demo is we have the ability to put things in order just by clicking on the column headers. So I can easily put this in order. Now I can see the amount of the status codes and the amount of messages per status code per minute slice. Okay. There is an order by or a sort by operator as well that we could have put it in our code. Okay. All right. Anyhow, let's continue on. Now we're at the transpose results. Okay. Now the numbers are great, ladies and gentlemen. Numbers are great, but it's difficult with these table numbers, these numbers in a table. It's difficult to do some analysis, to do comparisons, to identify trends. It's a challenge to do that in a table format. It would be nice if we had that, let's say that Excel-like format where we had columns and rows and the intersection. It would be nice if we could build that here. Well, let's do it. Let's grab in our actual guide here let's grab under number, let's see here. Transpose is under number 1 here. Let's go ahead and highlight that transpose statement and copy it. We're going to add it to the last line. Okay, so let's go back to the CIP. Let's place our cursor at the end of the count by line. Place your cursor there. And again, we want to add a new blank line. On my Mac, I'm using Shift Return. You might be using Shift Enter or Alt Enter. Okay, anyhow, go ahead and add that line and then paste. So let's read this here. Okay, it's saying, hey, we want to transpose. We want our time slice on our rows, and we want our status code on our columns. So we're using the transpose operator. Let's go ahead and run that. And voila, we are now able to do comparisons, do analysis, identify trends, because we have that column and row and intersection type behavior. Okay. All right, let's go ahead. It's much better now. We want to go ahead and make a visualization off of this. We have many chart options. I want you to remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have an aggregate, you will not be able to, display it in the chart. So you need to have aggregations, okay? Guhan, you might want to copy the expression from the lab guide and try it again. Copy it from the lab guide and try it again. I'll paste it for you, but again, if you fat fingered anything, it might not work. So copy it from the lab guide. Anyhow, let's go ahead, and as I mentioned here, we can display our results in charts. So we can, if we wanted to do a column chart, we can do that. There's a line chart, bar chart, graphs. There's a pie chart as well, okay? Now, I'm going ahead and choose a column chart, ladies and gentlemen. But if you notice, there's some dominant lines here, okay? My 200s are dominating this chart. Just like you learned earlier during my demonstration, our legends are interactive. So we can turn off our 200s by clicking on the 200 in our legends. But we still see something dominating the 304s. We can turn off the 304s. That's a manual process, okay? We would like to code to get rid of those 304s and 200s. So we're going to build that in our query. So let's go back and grab. We're going to use the, similar to what we saw before, we're going to use the not equal. Okay, so let's grab under number 1 here, just down near the bottom of your page here, you're going to see the pipe where, and you'll see an exclamation mark. That exclamation point is used as a not. So it's going to read where status code is not 200 or is not 304. So let's go ahead and copy that. Now we need to place this in a particular location because we have a syntax that we follow with our query expressions. So let's go ahead and place our cursor at the end of the parse line. At the end of the parsing line, place your cursor there, add a new blank line after that, and then paste. I am going to demonstrate later the syntax that we follow and why we follow it. Again, we're putting that where clause right after the parse because we're utilizing the status codes that we parsed out, okay? Let's go ahead and run this. What you're going to notice immediately is that your legends no longer have 200s or 300s as a display option. Okay. All right. Wow, you guys are making excellent progress. You've completed part 3. You've aggregated your results. You've used the transpose operator to make your results easier to read. And you created a chart of your results and adjusted the chart legend to show only the data of most interest. All right, let's continue on. You guys are doing awesome. Good job. Let's go ahead and click on the next lab, which is lab number 4. Again, let's click on the next lab, lab number 4. We want to use the powerful forensic tool, okay? That forensic tool that we're talking about is we're going to create a dashboard, okay? In our upper right corner, we're going to add this query to a panel that's going to be part of a dashboard, okay? All right, let's go ahead and go back to our CIP. And again, if you see over to the right, all the way over to the right, you'll see the phrase add to dashboard. And you want to follow my methodology and follow my steps here. So go ahead and click on that phrase. It named the panel based on whatever you saved your query as. So let me kind of paint the pictures in your minds as I did earlier. If you remember, when I was doing my demo, I opened up a 12-panel dashboard. And I said each one of those 12 panels has an underlying query. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what we've just done is we've built the underlying query. Now we're going to add that to a dashboard, okay? So we're naming it. Once you click in the dashboard area, once you click there, it gives you a list of all of the existing dashboards. So if we wanted to, this would be the example of where we would add our panel to an existing dashboard. But we're not going to do that, ladies and gentlemen. We want to create a new dashboard. So let's call this status codes, and let's put our initials. And I'll go ahead and put a couple numbers there, okay? So you'll notice as you start typing a unique value there, it starts to limit, and then eventually it gets to create new dashboard. That's what we want you to do here, ladies and gentlemen. We want you all to create a new dashboard. So go ahead and click on that link, create new dashboard. And what I also want you to do is turn off that create new dashboard and the user interface. We have some test questions coming up on the new interface that we're not ready to expose right now. So let's go ahead and turn that value off, that lever off. So everyone should be pretty much where I am. You've created the dashboard panel. You then created a new dashboard and you turn this gear off, okay? Now you can go ahead and choose the add. Now, let me make you aware of what you're seeing or what you should be seeing. You should be in the edit mode of the dashboard you just created. You should see the panel from the actual query we created, okay? We are in the edit mode right now. So let's do some things while we're in the edit mode. There's 3 dots in the top right corner to the right of the phrase done editing. There's 3 dots there. Click on those 3 dots. We're going to add a panel. So let's go ahead and click the phrase add panel. This panel has 2 radio buttons on it. It has a text and a title. So I'm just going to give it a title. I'm going to call it status codes. And then I'll click the radio button for text. And I'm going to type in this panel displays status codes. Or you can put whatever you want, okay? And then I'll submit. Okay? So we're still in the edit mode, ladies and gentlemen. We have the ability to left mouse click and hold to drag and reorder these. Left mouse click and hold to drag and reorder. We can also go to the sizing corners and resize these items as well, okay? Again, left mouse, drag and hold, and go to the sizing corner to resize. There's no right or wrong answer here. We're just giving you examples here, okay? Now, while we're in this mode, we can also go back to the 3 dots and we can toggle the theme. So again, now I'm in a darker theme, okay? Or we can go back and toggle the theme and be in a lighter theme. Okay, now we can go ahead and choose done editing. You'll see there's a funnel up here. We haven't done anything with filtering, but you can learn more about that filtering in our search mastery class. But if we had a filter, it would apply to all of our dashboards. Okay. Steph reads should be checkboxes and not radios. Oh, okay. Yep. Duly noted, Steph. Thanks. All right, so we did all of that. We changed the modes. All right, so let's go back and look at our actual lab guide here. Did all of that. We changed the modes. All right, let's share this as well. So I'll go back here. You can click either on the share in the top right corner, or you can go to where you saved your dashboard in your personal folder and click on the share as well. Okay, and again, you can share this with your entire organization and share. They, of course, would find this in the library. Okay. All right, good job. You've completed task 4. You created a panel from your search results and added it to a new dashboard. You've added a text panel. You've changed the look and feel of the dashboard, and you shared the dashboard with others in your organization. All right, let's go ahead and click on our lab 5, modify. Lab 5, modify our dashboard. What we want to demonstrate here, ladies and gentlemen, this lab number 5 is you can open up an actual panel, the actual query, without opening up a log search. Okay, so you can open up the query and change it if you wanted to. So together, ladies and gentlemen, on lab number 5, let's go ahead and copy under number 3, right under number 3, there's a phrase, it reads pipe, where country name equals United States. Let's go ahead and copy that, okay? And let's go back to our CIP. Click on your personal folder tab. Click on your personal folder tab. You should see your Apache folder that you downloaded. You should see that. Go ahead and expand that Apache folder. You should see an Apache overview dashboard. It's purple. Go ahead and click on that Apache overview dashboard to open it. All right, now, we see when we consume this that we have several dashboard panels. Let's focus on the visitor's location dashboard panel. If you take a look, you can double click to zoom in. You can use your left mouse to drag. You can use your scroll bar to zoom in and zoom out. But what you notice, ladies and gentlemen, is we're seeing messages that are coming from all over the world. Okay, we're seeing messages come from everywhere. What we'd like to do is change this dashboard panel's query. So let's do that. Let's click on the 3 dots in the right corner of the visitor's location panel. And let's go down to the phrase edit. This approach is not opening in a new log search. It's just opening up that underlining query for you. Okay. Now, Let's read this for a second. I want to read the last two lines to kind of show you what's going on. Whenever you see a lookup statement in our tool, it's a good example to read the lookup from right to left. So what we're doing is we're providing an IP address. That IP address is going to a lookup table. We have a relationship with Newstar. They provide and populate this lookup table. All we need to do is provide the IP address. So when we provide the IP address, it looks up in this table and it'll give us postal code, city, region, country name, country code, latitude, and longitude. So all we need is the IP address. Now, I've said that 8 times. Place your cursor on the row at the end of the row of the lookup. So it should be right where you see the IP equals SRC IP. Place your cursor there and add a new blank line after that. And paste. We're adding this where clause after the lookup because we're using the country name. The country name is only provided in this query from the lookup. So that's why we're adding the where after the lookup. Okay, now to run this query over to the right, you're going to see the magnifying glass, the blue magnifying. Go ahead and run the query. You should now see that the diagram, the chart, has been updated. It's changed. But we need to also update the dashboard. So let's go ahead and click on Update Dashboard. And now the dashboard is only displaying United States of America, where people are logging in from the US. All right, let's go back here. So we did all of that. All right, so we did all of that. That's all done. So that was lab number 5. Good job. Again, we demonstrated how you can go into the actual panel and only update the query and then update the dashboard. All right, let's get to the last lab here, number 6. Lab number 6, create an alert. Okay, we're going to use the same dashboard panel to create an alert, but we have to do something different. So let's go back to our CIP. We're still looking at the Apache Overview dashboard. We're still looking at the visitor location dashboard panel. This time, ladies and gentlemen, since we want to create an alert, we have to go to the saved object. So where it reads visitors location, go back to the 3 dots and click on open in a log search. So when we click on open in a log search, ladies and gentlemen, we can go ahead in the top right corner and click on the save as icon, or you can go to the 3 dots and click the save as. When you come to the save as, ladies and gentlemen, in the bottom left corner of the save as, you should see the schedule this search. So let's click on that phrase, schedule this search. What are we doing, Odell? We're setting an alert. In order to set an alert, we have to save that search and we get this here window. Right now it says it's never gonna run. If we click the drop down arrow, we can choose run it every 15 minutes or whatever value you want to, and we get a set of other choices. So I'm gonna go ahead and change it if I wanna run it for the last 60 minutes. So I'll run it every 15 minutes for the last 60 minutes, okay? We have different alerting mechanisms. We're gonna use email, but I could use webhooks. I could use save it to an index. I could use a script action, ServiceNow, again, but we're using an email. Okay, and I'll just put in an email address, just anything here, because we're in our training environment. Okay, and then finally going down here, I'm also going to turn on, I want to see my results in CSV. So I'm turning that on. You see where it reads email subjects? We're going to replace what's there with, in our lab on number 6H, 6H, the number 6 lab, step 6, letter H. You should see a box there that has some variables there. Let's go ahead and highlight those and copy those variables. Search name, fire time, and num raw results. We're highlighting those and copying those, going back to our CIP. And we're still in that alert window. Right where it reads email subject, we're going to highlight what's ever there, and we're going to paste over it. Those are variables that provides, when we run our query, the number of results, the time it ran, and the actual name. So just to recap, we're creating an alert. It's running every 15 minutes for 60 minutes. It's going to email us, okay? It's also going to give us an email subject, and it's also going to give us a CSV. You save that, and that would run, okay? And of course, that's going to be over in your personal folder. Now let me demonstrate, ladies and gentlemen, how to turn it off. So you go to that saved object. So you can either go back to the 3 dots, or you can go over to in your personal folder and click on the 3 dots, and you can edit. When you click that edit phrase, you then are able to edit the schedule, and this is how you turn it off, ladies and gentlemen. This is important. You go to the run frequency and you change it to never. So now it'll never run, and then you choose update. Or of course you could delete it if you wanted to. That would work as well, okay? All right. All right, so lab number 7 is really a reference page. And I want to just go over some of the topics here. To get help with Sumo Logic, check out our release notes. Search our documentation hub. Visit our Learn page. Post a question in our Sumo Logic community. Try our customer Slack channel or contact support. So I'll leave this lab 7 as a reference page for you. I want to finish up my actual slides because there's some information I want to point out to you. For example, let's talk about the queries. Remember, I said there's a syntax. Here's the syntax. We're using metadata. We're optionally using a keyword. It's not mandatory, okay? We're parsing out to make it easier to read. We're filtering. Notice in this filter example, we're using a matches where anything begins with the number 5. Before we said equals, okay? We're also counting by and sorting. The reason we use this syntax is so we can narrow our search scope by using metadata and keywords, by using different types of parsing. Remember, there's different types of parsing. There's different types of filtering, aggregation, as well as formatting. We've used the log reduce. That was to find that needle in the haystack. There is also the log compare, which allows you to compare to your logs to a prior time. So maybe we want to compare our logs to last Tuesday, or maybe we want to compare it to yesterday. So that's what that log compare allows you to do. From an administrator's perspective, you also have the ability to do some live tails. A live tail is a query that displays the messages as they're being ingested into Sumo Logic. And live tail is typically done by an administrator. We have a governor set that only 10 live tails can be ran concurrently at a time. All right. All right, all of that. All right, so any questions here? Christian, can we view this info somewhere? What is it that you want to view, Christian? Any other questions? The live tail, yeah, you can always Google, excuse me, you can always do the help sumologic.com and click on live tails and it'll give you that information. Yep, yep. That's what you're going to use as well for the exam, ladies and gentlemen. All right. The slides, I'll go over that again. Sandy wants to know where the slides are. So again, inside of the, if you click on the home tab, you click on the certification link, click on the get certified. Then you go to recorded live trainings. Once you click on recorded live trainings, we just completed the fundamentals. You click on the fundamentals and you would register real quickly. And there's the slides. Okay. All right, now let me walk you through how to take the exam. Ladies and gentlemen, you are logged into our training environment. You're not going to take the exam in the training environment. So the first thing you need to do is log out of our training environment. How do you do that? You go to the navigation panel, the main menu, click on your training ID and choose sign out. That's the first thing you need to do. Then you're going to log in to your company's Sumo Logic environment, like I'm doing. Once you log into your company's environment, you're going to just go back to that home tab, click on the certification, click on the get certified. Once you click on that get certified, you'll click on get certified again. And then you'll take again, you have it in different languages if you needed it. You take the fundamentals. So once you click on it, you'll register for free, just a click. Again, it'll bring it up for you. Again, it tells you there's 30 questions. I'll be here for 60 minutes. You'll start the assessment. We have over 1,000 questions, so you all might not have the same questions, but question number one, it says, when overlaying logs on top of a metrics, an orange log overlay bar is displayed at the top of the metrics chart. The relative number of messages is represented by the intensity of cover. The deeper the orange, the more the message. That's true. Remember, I showed you that at the very beginning. So if you have this question and you chose true, you might get it right. So again, you're going to go through and do all 30 all questions. You'll make sure you submit. That's the key thing. Of course, I didn't pass, but you see, I got that one right. Before you submit, you can see the ones you got wrong. We don't give you the answer. We don't tell you where you got it wrong or anything like that. We just tell you you got it wrong. You can take the test as many times as you like. You can take it whenever you like. We suggest you take it now because it's still fresh in your minds. Now, one other thing I want to point out to you. After you pass the exam, you can come back into your environment and click on this icon in the top right corner. Okay, click on that icon and then click on My Profile. Okay, once you click on My Profile, you will get a chance to see all of the certifications you have. And one other thing you can do, you can display it on LinkedIn. Okay, again, that's clicking on this little icon in the top right corner once you log in. Okay, so I can see I'm logged as myself and all of the actual items. Okay. All right, so again, Christopher wants to know how I got here. Again, you click on home in your environment, you click on the home tab. Let me close some of these tabs out the way. It looks overwhelming here. So you click on the home tab, click on the certification link, click on the get certified, and then click on get certified again, and then take the fundamentals exam. Any other questions? So you click on Get Certified, and you're taking the fundamentals exam. All righty then. So, well, on behalf of myself and Tram and all of the trainers here at Sumo Logic, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to present to you. Good luck with the exam. I will be here for an hour to assist you if you have any questions to proctor the exam. We look forward to seeing you in upcoming courses. Again, we have Search Mastery tomorrow and Administration on Thursday. I will place in the chat the link form for your Uber Eats voucher. Again, thank you. Have a good rest of your day or evening. Again, those that are taking the exam, good luck. I'll be here for you.